If your mind won't stop racing tonight, if the same worry keeps circling back no matter how tired you are, you're not alone in this, and there's a reason it happens. 3,000 years ago, a king facing real, life-threatening danger wrote down exactly what to do about it, and what he wrote still works tonight. His name was David. His enemies were at the door. His heart was troubled, and yet he slept. Not a restless, broken sleep, a deep, peaceful sleep, the kind you've been praying for. That peace is available to you too. And tonight, we're going to discover why, through lines hidden inside Psalm 4 that almost no one stops to notice. Stay with us. What carried a king through his worst nights can carry you through yours too. Welcome to Stillwater Grace. We come here tonight tired. Not just tired in body, but tired in mind. Tired of thinking, tired of carrying, tired of trying to hold everything together on our own strength. Whatever kind of day led you here, God already knows, and He has been waiting for this exact moment. Psalm 4 was written by David during a season when he could not find peace. His enemies were pressing in on him. His heart was troubled, and sleep would not come easily. And in the middle of that unrest, he did not just ask God for peace. He declared it. He spoke it over his own soul until his body finally believed what his spirit already knew. That safety does not come from circumstances lining up perfectly. It comes from the presence of God settling over a person like a covering. That is what we are inviting into this room tonight. Regardless of what your day looked like before you pressed play, regardless of what tomorrow might hold, that you're already dreading a little, none of that disqualifies you from what's about to happen here. If anything, it's exactly why this psalm was written in the first place. Let's pray together now. Lord, we lay everything down at your feet right now. We ask you to meet us here in this quiet space and do what only you can do. Quiet our thoughts, slow our hearts, remind us that we are safe in you. There is a kind of stillness that only God can give, not the kind we find by forcing our minds to stop, because we already know that doesn't work. This is a stillness that comes from somewhere deeper. It settles over us the way a heavy blanket settles over a cold room, covering everything, warming everything until the shivering stops. And there is a reason David's words still work, centuries later, on nights exactly like this one. It has to do with one thing he did before he ever closed his eyes. Something we're about to open together. You don't need to have tonight figured out before we keep going. You don't need to feel calm yet. You just need to stay with us for the next few minutes. There's a reason we're spending real time on this psalm instead of rushing through it. Most videos about Psalm 4 skip straight to the last verse, the one about lying down in peace, because it's the most quotable. But that verse doesn't mean anything on its own. It's the result of everything David does before it. Skip the steps, and the peace at the end feels like a nice idea instead of something you can actually reach tonight. So we're going to walk through it in order, the way David actually prayed it, one honest step at a time. If your body is carrying tension right now, notice it. You don't have to fix it immediately. Just notice it, the way you'd notice a sound in another room. And as we go, let it start to loosen on its own. There's a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from a mind that won't stop running. Tomorrow's list. yesterday's mistake, a conversation that's still replaying for no reason. Maybe it's a text you sent that you're now second-guessing, or a meeting tomorrow you've already rehearsed 6 different ways in your head. If that's where you are tonight, David felt it too, in the middle of real danger, not imagined danger, and instead of pretending it wasn't there, he brought it straight to God in the plainest language he had. Think about how differently we usually handle a racing mind. Most of us try to outthink it. We tell ourselves to stop worrying, to relax, to just let it go, as if the mind responds to commands the way a light switch responds to a hand. It rarely works that way. The thought comes back within minutes, sometimes seconds, often louder than before. David's approach was different, and it's the reason this psalm has survived for 3,000 years instead of fading into forgotten poetry. He didn't try to silence his mind through sheer will. He brought his mind, exactly as loud and tangled as it was, directly into God's presence and let something outside of himself do the settling. That's the model we're going to follow tonight, verse by verse, prayer by prayer, until we reach the same place David reached. It's worth saying plainly that this psalm is short, 8 verses, easily read in under a minute. But David didn't write it to be read quickly. He wrote it the way a person writes something they've lived through many times, compressing years of hard-won understanding into a handful of lines meant to be prayed slowly, not skimmed. That's why we're not going to skim it either. Each verse earned its place in this psalm through real nights, like the one you might be having right now. And each one deserves the time it takes to actually sink in, rather than just pass by. That's where we're headed next, into the exact words he used, and why they still work on a mind like yours tonight. Psalm 4 begins like this: "Answer me when I call to you, my righteous God. Give me relief from my distress. Have mercy on me, and hear my prayer." Nothing polished about that. It's a person in real trouble, asking to be heard, asking for relief, asking for mercy, all in the same breath. And there's a detail in the original Hebrew that most translations lose completely. The word for distress literally means a narrow, cramped place, and the word for relief literally means a wide, open space. David isn't just asking to feel better. He's asking God to move him from somewhere tight to somewhere spacious. If you've ever felt your chest tighten with worry, right as you're trying to fall asleep, that's not just a feeling. That's the exact picture this verse is describing. 3,000 years before anyone had a word for anxiety, this wasn't an abstract metaphor for David. For years, while he ran from a king who wanted him dead, David's actual world narrowed to exactly this. He hid in the wilderness of En-Gedi, in the rocky hill country near the Dead Sea, in passages so narrow that Scripture describes them as places barely possible to enter. He slept in caves. He moved carefully through gaps in the rock where a single misstep could give away his position. The narrow place in this psalm wasn't only in his chest, it was under his feet, on every side of him, for years at a time. And that's exactly why this psalm carries the weight it does. David isn't offering advice from a place of safety. He's writing from inside the tightness, asking God to do what only God can do. Open up space where there wasn't any. Your narrow place probably doesn't look like a cave in the desert. It might look like a bank account that doesn't stretch far enough. A diagnosis you're still waiting on. A relationship that feels like it's closing in from every side. A decision with no clearly right answer, where every option feels like a wall. It might even be something smaller than all of that. A single sentence someone said to you days ago that you still can't shake, replaying itself every time the room goes quiet. Whatever it is, notice that it has a shape tonight. Let yourself actually picture it instead of just feeling it as a vague weight in your chest. Naming the shape of it is the first step David took 3,000 years before you. Maybe tonight you've been carrying something you haven't said out loud to anyone. This verse gives you permission to bring it exactly as it is, without needing to explain it perfectly first. Here's something worth sitting with. David didn't say, "Answer me because I've earned it." He simply called out, trusting that the God he was calling on was righteous, and that righteousness meant this God could be trusted to respond with mercy rather than judgment. You're not trying to convince a reluctant God to notice you tonight. You're calling out to a God who has already set his attention toward the people who call on him, the same way he set his attention toward a fugitive hiding in a narrow crack in a cliff face 3,000 years ago. Lord, answer us tonight. We have distress we haven't fully named, even to ourselves. Some of it is fear about tomorrow. Some of it is old, worn-down disappointment. Some of it is simply the tightness of a mind that won't slow down. We're not going to pretend it isn't there. We bring it to you exactly as it is, and we ask you to move us from this narrow place into the wide one you've already prepared. The way you moved David, the way you have moved every person who has ever brought you their real distress instead of a polished version of it. There's a kind of relief that comes only after honesty, not after you've solved the problem, just after you've stopped hiding it, even from yourself. If you've been holding something back, even in your own prayers, let tonight be the night you stop holding it back. And there is a reason David could ask this so directly, without hesitating, without wondering if he deserved an answer. It has to do with what he says next, about being heard specifically, and it's about to change the way this whole prayer feels. There's one more thing worth noticing about this opening cry. David doesn't just ask God to remove the danger around him. He asks specifically to be moved, to be relocated from the tight place into the wide one. That's a different request than simply asking for the problem to disappear. Sometimes God does remove the danger entirely, but sometimes, and this was true for David for years at a time, the circumstances stay the same for a long while, and what actually changes first is the amount of room a person has to breathe inside of them. The walls of the cave didn't move. David did, in the sense that mattered most. His heart found space, even while his body stayed hidden in the same narrow passages for years. That's worth remembering if your circumstances tonight aren't likely to change by morning. The wide place this psalm promises isn't always a change in your address, your bank balance, or your diagnosis. Sometimes it's a change in how much room you have to carry what hasn't changed yet. Know that the Lord has set apart his faithful servant for himself. The Lord hears when I call to him. Set apart doesn't mean special in some vague way. It means kept close, watched over, recognized on sight. Think about the handful of people whose voice you'd know instantly even in a crowded room. That's a small picture of what this verse describes, except infinitely more certain. When you call out to God tonight, you are not one voice among billions competing for attention. You are a voice He has already set apart to hear. Think about what that actually meant for David in the years this psalm comes from. He wasn't praying from a palace with guards at the door. He was praying from hillsides where he had once kept sheep as a boy, and later from hidden places in the wilderness where almost no one on earth knew exactly where he was. And yet he writes with total confidence that God heard him. He had learned over years of hiding and running and waiting that being physically hidden from his enemies did not mean being hidden from God. If anything, it was the opposite. The more invisible David became to the people hunting him, the more sharply he seems to have felt God's attention on him. That should change something about the confidence behind your prayer tonight. Not just the words in it. You might feel invisible right now in whatever situation has kept you up at night, unseen by the people who could actually help, unheard by the people you wish understood. That feeling is real, and it's worth naming instead of pushing away. But it is not the same as being unheard by God. Those two things only feel identical in the dark. They are not the same thing at all. Picture a clear night sky, more stars than you could ever count. The kind of sky David would have actually seen from those hillsides, with none of the light pollution that hides the stars from most of us now. It would be easy to feel small under something that vast, but the same God who placed every one of those stars also knows your name and bends his attention toward you specifically when you speak, the same way he did for a shepherd boy watching sheep on a hill outside Bethlehem, long before that boy had any idea what his life would become. There's something worth remembering here too. The years before David became king were not glamorous years. He spent long stretches of time completely alone, doing repetitive, unremarkable work, watching sheep through quiet nights, not so different from this one. Nobody was writing about him yet. Nobody important knew his name, and it was precisely in that hidden, ordinary season that he learned to recognize God's voice and God's presence long before he ever needed that skill to survive in the wilderness later. Whatever quiet, unremarkable season you're in right now, however invisible it may feel to the people around you, it is not wasted time in God's eyes. So when gratitude rises up tonight, let it be grounded in this. Not in how today happened to go, but in who's actually listening. Lord, we thank you that we're not calling into silence. We thank you that you've set us apart to hear specifically, the way you did for David in his hiding places, the way you have done for every person who has ever called out to you honestly in the dark. Let that truth sit underneath everything we bring to you tonight. Even the parts we haven't said out loud yet, you are heard. Not eventually, not once you've said the right thing. Right now, in this exact moment, whatever you're carrying, whatever shape it takes, it has already reached him. But gratitude is only the beginning, because there is something he wants to give tonight that goes deeper than being heard. It's about what happens the moment David actually lies down, and we're getting close to it now. Before we move there, it's worth sitting for a moment with what it actually means to be set apart like this, because the phrase can sound distant if you rush past it. Being set apart doesn't mean God loves you more than anyone else watching tonight, as if his attention were a limited resource being divided up carefully. It means the opposite. Every single person praying along with this psalm right now, in however many different homes, different time zones, different kinds of exhaustion, is equally set apart, equally heard, equally known by name. That's not a contradiction. It's simply how God's attention works. Unlike ours, our attention runs out. His doesn't. You are not sharing a smaller piece of his notice by being one of many people he hears tonight. You have the whole of it, the same way David had the whole of it in a wilderness where, as far as the rest of the world knew, he had disappeared completely. There's a kind of comfort in that thought worth staying with for a moment. You are not competing with anyone else's need tonight, not with the people you love who are also struggling, not with a stranger somewhere else watching this same prayer, not with anyone. Being heard specifically doesn't mean being heard instead of someone else. It means being heard fully, completely, without division, exactly the way you would want to be heard by someone who actually loved you. Here it is. The line David wrote right before he could finally rest. Tremble and do not sin. When you are on your beds, search your hearts and be silent. Not calm down, not stop thinking about it. He tells himself to search his heart honestly, on the bed, in the dark, and only after that searching, to be silent. That's the one thing most people skip. They try to force the silence first, before they've actually looked at what's keeping them awake, and it almost never works, especially at night, when there's nothing left to distract you from it. Searching comes first. Silence comes after. There's something worth knowing about this specific instruction. The same command, tremble and do not sin, appears again centuries later in a letter Paul wrote to a small church in Ephesus. He tells them almost the exact same thing David tells himself here, using language that echoes this psalm directly. Don't let the sun go down while you're still carrying unresolved anger. Two writers, separated by 1,000 years, land on the same instruction for the same reason. Whatever stirred up in you doesn't need to be denied, and it doesn't need to be carried into tomorrow either. It needs to be brought into the light, honestly, before it's allowed to settle into silence. So tonight, instead of fighting your thoughts, let's search them honestly before we ask for silence. Is there something you're afraid of that you haven't said out loud? Bring it here now. Is there a decision weighing on you? Something you don't know how to move forward with? Bring that too. Is there a wound from someone else's words or your own that keeps surfacing the moment everything else goes quiet? Let it surface now, here, instead of at 2 in the morning, alone with it. Is there anger you've been carrying towards someone or toward a situation that never resolved the way you needed it to? Let that come up too. It's allowed to be here. Maybe what you're searching for isn't one clear thing at all. Maybe it's several smaller worries stacked on top of each other, none of them huge on their own, but heavy together. The way a handful of small stones can feel like a boulder once you're carrying all of them at once. If that's true tonight, you don't have to sort them into order of importance. You can just set the whole stack down, together, right here. There is a particular kind of relief that comes from finally putting a worry into words, even silently, even just in your own mind as you listen to this. Something about naming a fear changes its shape. It stops being a shapeless, circling thing and becomes something specific enough to hand over. That's what David was doing on his bed in the dark. 3,000 years before anyone studied why this kind of honesty helps. He wasn't following a technique someone had discovered. He was simply telling the truth to the only one who could actually do something with it. Lord, we bring you what has been keeping us awake, the fear we haven't spoken, the decision we don't know how to make, the anger we've been holding on to longer than we meant to, the small worries that have stacked up into something heavier than any one of them should be. We're not asking you to make it disappear instantly. We're asking you to sit with us in it, honestly, the way this verse invites us to, until the silence that follows is real peace and not just exhaustion. Let's stay here a moment longer than usual. There's no rush to move past this. If something specific came up while you searched your heart just now, let it stay in front of you a little longer. You don't have to solve it tonight. You just have to stop pretending it isn't there. Imagine setting it down now, the way you'd set down something heavy you've been holding in both arms for far too long, finally allowed to rest your arms at your sides. That's the thing David did before he ever closed his eyes. Not a technique, not a trick to fall asleep faster. An honest search, held in God's presence instead of carried alone. He did this same searching in the hardest years of his life, hidden in wilderness caves, uncertain whether he'd survive the week, let alone the years ahead. If it worked for him there, in circumstances far harder than most of us will ever face, it can work for you here, tonight, in whatever ordinary or extraordinary thing is keeping you from rest. Consider, too, what this practice actually protects you from over time. A worry that's never named tends to grow in the dark, gathering weight from every other unresolved thing nearby, until eventually it's hard to tell where one fear ends and another begins. That's often what makes 3 a.m. feel so much heavier than it should. It isn't one thought keeping you awake. It's a tangle of thoughts that were never separated out and looked at individually, each one borrowing intensity from the others. The simple act of searching your heart honestly, one named thing at a time, begins untangling that. You don't have to untangle everything tonight. You only have to start the way David started, one honest sentence at a time, brought into a presence big enough to hold whatever you find. If you're someone who has tried this kind of honesty before and found it didn't seem to help right away, that's worth naming too, without judgment. Sometimes the peace this psalm describes arrives slowly, a little more each time you practice this same honest searching, rather than all at once the first night you try it. That doesn't mean it isn't working. It means you're building the same pattern David built over years, not overnight. And every honest night, like this one, is part of that building. And once that search is real, there's one more step this psalm walks through. Something about what he asks for, instead of the things everyone else was chasing. Offer the sacrifices of the righteous and trust in the Lord. Many, Lord, are asking, who will bring us prosperity? Let the light of your face shine on us. Fill my heart with joy when their grain and new wine abound. Everyone around David was asking the same anxious question. Who's going to bring us what we need? Will there be enough? Picture what that actually looked like in his world. Fields of wheat on terraced hillsides, vineyards climbing the slopes. A good harvest meant survival through the year. A bad one meant real hunger. When David's neighbors asked who will bring us prosperity, they weren't being greedy. They were asking the most practical, urgent question a person in their position could ask. And in the middle of that very real, very reasonable anxiety, David asks for something completely different. Not more grain, not more wine, just God's face shining on him, and joy that has nothing to do with how much he has. That's a strange thing to pray for, and it's exactly what's worth praying for tonight. So much of what keeps us awake is some version of that same question, dressed differently. Will there be enough? Will it work out? Will tomorrow hold what we're afraid it won't? Will the money stretch? Will the diagnosis be what we fear? Will the relationship survive? It's heavy to carry into rest, and worry alone never actually resolves it. No matter how many times you turn it over in the dark, notice something honest here. David isn't pretending the harvest doesn't matter. He isn't telling himself that provision is unimportant or that his neighbors were wrong to worry about it. He's simply refusing to let that worry be the last word over his heart before he sleeps. There's a difference between caring about tomorrow's needs and being ruled by tomorrow's uncertainty. David cared. He just wasn't ruled. Most of us have never learned that distinction. We assume that caring about an outcome means we're required to keep worrying about it until it resolves, as if worry itself were a form of responsibility. But worry has never once produced a better harvest, a faster diagnosis, or a repaired relationship. It only produces exhaustion. David seems to have understood that trusting God with an outcome is not the same as being careless about it. It's simply refusing to let the uncertainty run the household of his heart at night. Lord, tonight we offer you our trust instead of our worry. We release our grip on needing to know how things will work out. We ask instead for your presence, for a joy that isn't tied to how much we have. Joy rooted in what you own is fragile because it can be taken. A good harvest one year says nothing about the next. Joy rooted in God's presence is different. It doesn't rise and fall with your bank account or your health report or how your week went. There's an image worth holding on to here, one that would have meant something very specific to David and to everyone who first heard this psalm. After the grain was harvested, it was carried up to a flat stone floor on a hilltop, open to the wind, where it was spread out and separated from the husk that surrounded it. That separating only happened in the open air, under the sky, never indoors. There's something fitting about that. The things weighing on us often need the same kind of exposure, brought out into the open, into God's presence, before what's actually useful in them can be separated from what we don't need to carry anymore. What's useful might be a lesson, a decision that finally needs to be made, a boundary that needs to be set. What's husk is usually the fear itself, the part that never actually helps and only weighs you down. So if tonight your circumstances haven't changed, if the grain and the wine, so to speak, are exactly as scarce as they were this morning, that does not disqualify you from this joy. This joy was written for nights exactly like this one, when nothing outside has shifted, but something inside finally can. Whatever unresolved thing is still sitting in your chest right now, whatever question about tomorrow you don't have an answer to, you don't need that resolved before this joy is available to you. It was never conditional on resolution. It only asks for presence. There's a reason this particular kind of joy is described as something God fills a heart with, rather than something a person manufactures on their own. You cannot talk yourself into this joy the way you might talk yourself into a better mood. It has to be given, received, allowed in, the way light fills a room the moment a lamp is lit, rather than something the room produces by trying hard enough. That's actually good news tonight, because it means this joy doesn't depend on your ability to think positively or reframe your circumstances skillfully. It depends only on your willingness to stop insisting that your circumstances resolve first. Think about what it would actually mean to carry this kind of joy into an ordinary Tuesday, a difficult conversation, a waiting room, a quiet house. It wouldn't erase the hard thing in front of you. It would simply mean the hard thing no longer gets to be the only voice speaking. There would be another voice underneath it, steadier, saying that you are held regardless of how the hard thing resolves. That's not denial. Denial pretends the difficulty isn't real. This is something else entirely. A settled confidence that sits alongside the difficulty without needing it to disappear first. It's the kind of confidence that lets you show up to the hard conversation, sit in the waiting room, open the bill you've been avoiding, all without it defining the whole of who you are in that moment. The circumstance stays real. You simply stop being ruled by it the way you were before tonight. And now that all of this has been laid down honestly, there's one last thing left. The part of the psalm that actually lets your body rest. In peace, I will lie down and sleep. For you alone, Lord, make me dwell in safety. Present tense. Not once the danger past. Not once every worry resolved. David writes this in the middle of unresolved distress, in a wilderness, likely within walking distance of the very caves and narrow passages that had kept him hidden for years, because the safety he's describing never depended on his circumstances changing in the first place. That's the whole shift this psalm has been building toward. The honest cry, the reminder of being heard specifically, the searching of the heart before the silence, the trust offered instead of anxious grabbing. All of it leads here to a single sentence about lying down and actually sleeping, because safety comes from God's presence, not a resolved life. Let your body sink a little deeper now. Let your shoulders release whatever they've been holding all day, even the tension you didn't notice was there. Let your jaw soften. Let your hands rest open instead of clenched. You don't need tonight's problem solved before you're allowed to rest. Safety tonight isn't about your circumstances. It's about who is holding you while you sleep. The same way he held a man hiding in the rocks of the Judean wilderness, close enough to his enemies to hear their voices and still able to write these words. Lord, we lay down tonight in peace, not because everything is resolved, but because you alone make us dwell in safety. Quiet every remaining thought. Let sleep come easily now, covering us the way this psalm describes. Safety that isn't earned by having it all figured out, but given because we belong to you. Let's sit in this truth together for a moment. No more explaining needed, just presence. If your mind tries to wander back to tonight's worries, gently bring it back here. You don't need to argue with the thought or push it away forcefully. Just notice it and let it pass, the way a cloud passes without needing to be chased off. You are allowed to let go now. Whatever you brought into this prayer tonight, whatever you searched and named and finally set down, it has been received. It doesn't need to be picked back up before morning. If it tries to return in the middle of the night, that same peace will still be here waiting. The same presence that held David through nights far harder than this one. Think about how many nights, over how many years, David actually lived out this exact sentence. Hidden, hunted, uncertain, and still able to lie down and sleep. That wasn't a one-time miracle. It was a pattern he built, night after night, of bringing his honest fear to God and trusting God with what came next. Tonight, whether you realize it or not, you've just walked through that same pattern. You've named what was keeping you awake. You've remembered that you're heard. You've offered trust instead of anxious grabbing. What's left now is simply what David did next, lying down and letting the safety that was never in question finally reach the parts of you that had forgotten it. It's worth noticing how ordinary this final step actually is. After all the honesty, all the searching, all the trust offered instead of grasped worry, the psalm doesn't end with a dramatic resolution or a vision or a miracle. It ends with someone going to sleep. That's not a small ending. It's the whole point. The proof that this prayer worked isn't a feeling of ecstatic peace or a sudden absence of every problem. It's simply rest, ordinary and physical. The kind your body is asking for right now, whether your mind has agreed to it yet or not. Let your body have what it's asking for tonight. Your mind can keep believing whatever it needs to believe come morning. Right now, this moment only asks one thing of you. Let go and let sleep come the way it came for a king who had far more reason to stay awake than you do tonight, and who found night after night that reason was never actually a match for the presence holding him. It won't be a match for what's holding you tonight either. There's one more thing left before we close together tonight, a final blessing to carry with you into sleep and into tomorrow. Before you drift off completely, let this settle over you as a final blessing. May the peace David found, the same peace that carried him through nights of real danger, through hiding in narrow places, through years of not knowing how his story would end, settle over you now completely. May your mind stay quiet through the night. May your body rest fully, without bracing for tomorrow before it's even arrived. And may you wake tomorrow, already covered by the safety you've been reminded of tonight, ready to meet whatever the day holds from a place of peace rather than fear. You are not carrying tonight's distress into tomorrow. You laid it down here honestly, the same way David did in far harder circumstances than most of us will ever face, and it was received. Whatever tomorrow actually holds, whatever conversation, whatever decision, whatever waiting, you will meet it from a place that is already steady, because the steadiness was never something you had to build on your own. It was given to you tonight, the same way it was given to a king who once had nothing but a cave and a psalm and a God who heard him. That king went on to write dozens more psalms after this one, through decades of a life that had its share of both triumph and failure. But this particular prayer, written in one of his hardest seasons, is the one that has quietly carried people to sleep for 3,000 years since. It will likely carry someone else tomorrow night too, in a different home, a different language, a different kind of worry, the same way it carried you tonight. That's worth remembering the next time your mind starts racing before bed. You're joining something much older and much larger than this one video, a long line of people who brought their honest fear into God's presence and were met there. If this prayer met you somewhere tonight, we'd love for you to be part of this community here at Stillwater Grace. Subscribing and turning on notifications means you won't miss the moments we gather like this, morning and night. If there's something specific weighing on you tonight, leave it in the comments below, along with where you're watching from. There's something powerful about a community of people from so many different places holding each other up in prayer. And while you're there, take a moment to pray for someone else's comment too. Someone reading this tonight needs to know they're not alone, and your simple prayer for a stranger might be the exact thing that reaches them tonight or on a harder night still to come. If this brought you peace, consider sharing it with someone you know is carrying something heavy right now. You likely already know who that person is. A friend going through something they haven't fully talked about. A family member who's been quieter than usual lately. Sometimes the most caring thing you can do for someone isn't advice or even conversation. It's simply handing them a few minutes of stillness, like the ones you just spent here, and letting them find whatever they need to find in it, the same way you did tonight. Wherever you are tonight, may He lead you beside still waters, and may that same peace stay with you long after this prayer ends. We'll meet here again